Hello everyone and welcome in. I'm sorry I don't have too long to do a video today, but I thought I better get another one done. So welcome all in and thank you so much for liking and subscribing and sharing me out. My rings of choice today was my Jonathan Lau snake ring. It is fancy colored diamonds in 14 karat and 18 karat gold, done by Jonathan Lau of Artsco, and of course my everyday diamond. The reason why I dressed down is I'm headed to a house to do a clean out, and what do I say? I didn't want to be too dressed up. So why I have this box out is I've talked about my parts and components and items that I use in restorations. And I had a restoration that I had to do, let's see here. It was 3 days ago, and I had to pull this. Now I have about, for full transparency, I probably have about 30 or 40 of these divided compartments, and they're kind of organized in the best way that I know to remember where my parts and components are. And then some of them, I'll show you, some of them are like gold findings, like that is the top of a Victorian earring, could be Georgian as well, right around 1830, 1840. That is 18 karat gold, and I didn't want to melt that down. I just didn't feel it appropriate. And then a whole bunch of like components and parts, Victorian findings, black onyx, gold findings, Victorian parts that I need for earlier restorations. I have done antique jewelry restorations for approximately I would say since college, because I did pay my bills by working at a few different places. Oh, this is interesting. I bought this at a yard sale for $15. It's one of those micro mosaics. Victorian micro mosaics. So a lot of my parts and components I kept because I even did lampshade restoration with the old beaded fringe on old lampshades. So whenever I would find parts off of old lampshades, the beaded fringe, I would keep it. Art Deco beads down in this compartment. I will start to get lost in some of these top compartments as well. I believe there's opals down in here. There are definitely pearls. It's very hard to find the half-drilled pearls. So this brooch years ago was really beyond repair. I found it in a jewelry jar in the late 1990s, and it was missing over half the Mississippi River pearls. So I used this to harvest the other pearls off of to do restorations. This brooch, as is, probably made me, I would guess $500 or $600 over the years that I've had it because of the restorations, because you simply cannot find certain stones for restorations these days. So anytime you find parts and components, I highly recommend you set them aside, because I don't even know what's in this one. Oh, more gold findings. We'll have to do a full sort on this. There are horn earring pieces that are Victorian, 1860, 1870. There are more gold earring findings in here. Pearls. Oh, these are tiny little, these are known as Kishi pearls. And these are tiny little pearls, and most of the time these are not drilled. These are supposedly not farmed right now because they just go out in the wash with the water. So these are very difficult to find. They're very small, between like 1 millimeter and a 2 millimeter or 3 millimeter at the very largest. And I'm very familiar with my millimeters without having to measure them because I've had to do it for so many years. These are diamonds down in here, and I kept these because these were more, quote, industrial grade diamonds. And I had kept these for a while. I'm getting so distracted, but these are diamonds. And I kept these because it's very difficult to find off-color and unusual cut diamonds. So I had kept those, and look how many. I got very lucky. That bag alone would make me several thousands of dollars to do restoration in, old pave diamond jewelry, Victorian and earlier. This I don't remember. Anyway, anyways, I wanted to come into this compartment, get into this compartment is what I meant to say. And why I wanted to show this compartment is this is where I had to be the other day to complete my 2 restorations on garnet brooches that I have. And I have often talked about the garnets that I have. Let me pour these out onto a small container. Give me one moment. Let me pause the video. I'll be right back. What a better tray than a sterling silver tray. You know that saying, keeping up with the Joneses? Well, it's going to be keeping up with the Adamses pretty soon. I don't know what my problem is. All right. So there are the garnet pieces that I had to use to do a restoration. And why I show these is it's difficult to find as I clean up stuff that just fell over in my background over here. Why I kept these was it's very difficult to find the older cut garnets. It's very difficult. And I had accumulated these over, I would say probably several decades. It's taken me a long time, and you need teardrop shape, and you need round, and you need oval, because a lot of times these weren't calibrated. These weren't calibrated cut stones. So in the older pieces, it's going to be very difficult to find some of these. I also kept seed pearls, or half pearls is what they call them. Those are very, very small. And when people question me, do you know what millimeter those are? Of course I do. They're between 1, well, they actually went under a 1 on the very tips. Those are between, let's say, between a 0.75 millimeter and about a 2 millimeter when it comes down to those. These garnets over here, you can see that I have some loose ones as well. And again, why I kept these is I knew that these would make me substantial amounts of money. I was picking these up for very little money here and there. Let me leave those on the tray for right now, and let me dig these out for, and seed pearls that are half drilled. Seed pearls that are half drilled. Very, very, very unusual. Those were in another junk bin. Those are in a total junk bin for, I think everything in the junk bin was 50 cents each. And I couldn't be happier to get those tiny, teeny, tiny natural pearls that are drilled all the way through that were not, people think those are woven on horsehair. Those were done on thread. Normally they're done on horsehair. Usually they're done on white horsehair. Those are done on thread. So there's a difference there on those. And I would normally say those are done on horsehair. They normally are. Those are done and sewn on with thread. Very unusual size. Why I kept this tray out is because, let me load up here and show you how many other stones I had to work with to do the restoration the right way. I always caution jewelers, if you don't have the right materials, don't do the restoration. Let someone else do it that has the right materials. Please don't undo history. I've tried so hard over the years to save as much as I possibly can, and then someone will say, well, why do you tear apart these pieces? Well, to answer your question is, they're beyond repair. Some of them were just so far beyond repair that I couldn't restore them. They may have been extremely damaged with the findings. Everything can be fixed in a way, and I won't disagree with that. But when it comes to my restorations and what I've done, I've been a very staunch conservator of our history, and let me be clear on that. So there is no gray area on that. For example, this earring. How in the world could someone restore this earring? Honestly, and a single earring, there's one earring, and you would say that you should fight to keep that? I'm not quite certain I understand that mentality. But what I will say is this will bring to life a future piece that needs to be revered and needs to be saved. And, I cautiously say that, it's my channel, it's my choice, it's what I've done for 30 years. This one, when you think about the way that this is constructed, you look at this, the earring back is broken off, the clasp is broken off, but you can see that there was foil underneath this to keep this, those stones alive. Beautiful craftsmanship on that. Let me set that aside up here. And then when you look at the brooches at the time, the restorations that have been done on some of these, look at all the lead solder. That's very difficult to restore. This has been altered several times through history, and it just couldn't withstand the test of time. Look how many stones are missing. I have yet to harvest any stones out of this brooch, but I will tell you this much. It would take me decades and decades and decades to restore this piece, and there's no reason for it. This should live on in other pieces. Absolutely, positively, 100% yes. And as a jewelry historian and someone who is agile in the business, there are so many of these brooches that can be found in relatively good condition. This should be the perfect donor for the garnet stones. So that's exactly what is to be used for in my collection. And it's to allow other pieces to live on. See those table cut garnets, that very large table? That's the table of the stone. So there's one large facet put across the table, and then that is inset with that foil and paper from behind. And I've always mentioned and often mentioned the paper backing and then the foil that's on top of that. And I've covered that in other videos. So if you haven't seen that, please go to my other videos. And sometimes when you have a question, I might sound frustrated. I'm not. It's just that I've probably covered it in a past video. So I always say, before you ask a question, go back and take a look. And what I will do, I will post from time to time, I will post a past video in my description box. So if you want to see the past video on, let's say, garnets on this one, on my garnet jewelry collection or some of my garnet collection, I will post the video in the description section, so just go over to the description, click on that, and it'll take you to a whole nother video. I didn't do playlists yet because I just don't know if I'm for it or not. I can't decide if I want to do the whole playlist thing with my library of videos. I'm just not sure on it. This one I might fight to restore. That's why I didn't harvest any stones out of this. The mechanism is there. It is a gorgeous brooch, and it looks like it needs 3 stones. And those are flat back. Those are a very common size. And what's beautiful about that is it could easily be restored. So I didn't pull any garnets out of it. You know, when I see something that can be fixed, I fight to keep it. I fight to restore those items. And as my other videos will show you, I have always fought to keep the items. This one, very poor quality metal work. The clasp is broken, the tube hinge is gone. It's too far gone. This is too far gone. You know, if someone would say, oh, I would restore that, I would first of all love to see you do it because of all the issues with the metal. And secondly, I would just send it to you for free and say, when you're done with it, send it back to me. So I absolutely love fighting for history and keeping these stones alive in other pieces. I really do. This one is fantastic and may need to be restored. We'll see what I come up with to match up the stones, but you can see those little tiny pieces of paper underneath where there would have been silver foil on top of, and then the rose-cut garnet stones inset from the top. Look how many prongs proudly hold those stones. I'll tell you, antique garnet jewelry is some of the most beautiful jewelry that existed. I really truly believe that, especially in gemstones and garnets. This one is Bohemian glass. And I tell people, just be careful on the difference between garnet and glass. See how the facets are, quote, softer? There's kind of an orange peel to the surface. Those are in fact glass. There's a lot of people that sell these for garnets, and they're absolutely incorrect. These are glass. They are not garnets. Those are absolutely glass stones. So notice the difference between a crisp, cut, polished stone and this kind of softer, faceted, quote, faceted glass. Still very beautiful, but absolutely not genuine garnets, for sure. This one is also, let's see if I'm making sure that I'm telling you correctly. I believe that this one, let me take it off camera really quick and get my loop. I always want to double check my information and let you know exactly what I know. And yes, this is interesting. There are some replacements that are garnets, and there are some that are merely glass. So on this one, we have a mixture of garnets and glass. And this is in brass. This is in brass and late Victorian. And I love I love the color of these stones. So close to the real thing. Really stunning. So that's kind of my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what else I wanted to get into in terms of compartments over here, but there are so many. There are so many other compartments that I want to get into because I had rescued and saved quite a few interesting pieces. Oh, this is neat too. I saved. Oh, I can't get it out of there, but you'll have to trust me on that one. Oh, and then some deco crystal, like those Briolette cut crystals, Bakelite pieces, glass pieces. I had kept a lot of this for restoration's sake because you can't let that stuff go. You have to set it aside because you never know when you're going to need it. And like I did, kind of keep a method to the madness, so when someone needs a restoration, they could easily call and say, hey, do you have a little enameled panel? Do you have a little finding? Do you have another little finding? Let's pour this one out and take a look at that one. Let's spill these back into their garnet compartment, as I probably should have put those back in the bag to keep the loose stones, but in haste, of course, look what happens. But I am so distracted by this house call today. I really am. Very distracted in a good way. Let's see what we have in this bag. Oh, findings, little pearls. Oh, an opal, probably set in gold. I don't know what this little one is. Yeah, that might be a something. Let's see. Oh, it is an enamel. But yeah, little components, findings, clasps, really lovely. And this opal might be in gold. That looks gold to me. That looks like, yeah, that looks like a gold. That looks like a that looks like a beautiful opal, actually. So there you go. Another little compartment that I stashed. So like if someone called me and said, hey, I have a large opal pendant and I need a drop. Look, I have the $300 to $400 or $500 drop for them. I really do. You know, let's say their opal is, you know what I'm saying, like their opal's like $3,000 and they need an opal drop for the bottom of it. Well, I've got it. So that concludes today's video. I thank you so much for joining in. I'll leave it there. I'll get this all cleaned up and I'll get over to my meeting. Thank you all so much for joining in. I hope you have a fantastic day, a wonderful rest of your week. I'll be back soon with future videos. You know how I end it. I love you because I do.